Alright, so you've started something new. You're trying to be more creative. You're attempting a project creatively. It might be writing or something else. And you're struggling. It's hard. It's hard to be creative regularly, especially when it's self-motivated, if it's just for you. I have realised that there's a mantra that works for me when I'm really struggling. And the mantra is, hold your nerve. I just want to share a tiny anecdote with you because I feel as though if you're a creative, and especially if you're freelance or you're just straight up unemployed at the moment, which is what I am, and you're wanting to use this time as effectively as possible to create something or to push yourself more into the writing endeavours that you've been wanting to do for ages, and you feel yourself wavering and you're thinking, oh, funds are low, or oh, is this what I really want to do with my life? And you're basically feeling that pressure, whether it's from society, family or friends, or internal, to give in. Hold your nerve. So my anecdote is the other day, so I set aside time every afternoon to write my book that I'm working on at the moment. So the other day I sat down in the afternoon to start writing. I was really struggling that day. Sometimes it's easy, sometimes it's not. We all know that. I was really, really struggling. I kept reading what I'd written previously and thinking, this is absolute crap. No one's going to read this. Why are you trying to be a writer? It makes no sense. Simultaneously, it's January. Money's tight. You know, I'm living off savings at the moment. I'm very lucky that I have some savings, but with no money coming in, that dwindles over time. So being very frugal, it's dark in January, you know, it's cold, seasonal affective disorder, etc., etc. So for all these reasons, I was feeling the pressure that day. Also, I was on my period, so what are you going to do? I was feeling the pressure of why try this creative endeavour? And so I quickly hopped online, which is a terrible idea, and I strongly advocate that if you're a writer and you use a laptop or a computer, you should have the internet switched off. I don't follow this advice. I know I should, because it's so easy just to get swept along and Google something else. So I started Googling jobs for writers, copywriters and other things. And I went down this sort of tunnel of exploration, and I found myself in a position where my partner came in about an hour later and he asked me, oh, how are you getting on? And I said, well, I'm not writing. I've just spent the last hour applying for a job which involves training AI. Now, for context, I actually lost my job to AI in a roundabout sort of way, and I think many people who are creatives are probably finding the same thing right now. So I lost my job to AI last year, a few months ago, and my partner came in the other day and found me applying for this job, and I just spent an hour filling in this really complex, you have to prove that you're worthy of them taking on your time. It's a 0-hour type thing, freelancing, it's just paid by the hour. And you're essentially training AI to be better, to be more human-like. And you're comparing responses and saying why they should be better or not. So he came in and I spent an hour doing this. I was like fixed on it. And he said, okay, well, I'm going to go make dinner, but you know, you come find me when you're done. I finished that, and once I got to the end of that, it said I had to fill in another application that would take another 45 minutes to continue on and be eligible to do these jobs. So I went to the kitchen and I basically had a breakdown and I cried and I said, you know, like, what am I doing? And he, my partner, he knows me very well, and he said, yeah, I was thinking when you told me that's what you're applying for, he thought, you don't want to do that. That doesn't sound like the kind of job that would make you happy. Why bother? And I'm glad he said that, and of course I realised that as well. But the fact of the matter was that I was really scared when I realised what the feeling was that had driven me to do that. And it has before, you know, it's driven me to write to companies and apply for things, which is all fine. You should do that if you feel the impulse and that's genuinely what you'd want to do. But I was applying for things that I genuinely didn't want to do, or I didn't feel I needed to even really do, because again, financially, I'm like, for now, I'm okay. But I just realized I was really afraid. I felt like a kid again. I was afraid of all the worst case scenarios. I was afraid I was going to run out of money. I was going to, not have anywhere to live. I was afraid that I financially couldn't support myself. And also, deeper than that, I was secretly afraid. I mean, it's not so much a secret, I tell my partner all the time. I'm afraid I'm not a good writer. I'm afraid I'm not meant to be a writer, and that anybody who reads anything I write, if I do ever finish it, which I often doubt I will, anybody that reads anything I write will think it's crap. I have that voice so embedded inside me. The inner critic is so strong, it's so familiar. You undoubtedly know it too. That voice is so loud. And it got really loud on this specific day because everything had just culminated. Hormones probably were a big factor in it, or lack thereof. So I had a cry and I had to think about it. And initially I thought, no, I'll go back to the form. I might as well fill it in. I haven't. I don't want to train AI. And I'm not going to get into a debate here about what AI means, whether it's the devil or not. There's a lot of opinions online. You can go and find them elsewhere. I don't actually hate AI for having lost me my job. The same thing happened to my dad. He was a translator. Google Translate came along, and so on and so forth. Progress happens. We can't stop it. What I did take away from that experience was a horrible reminder, a very scary reminder, that it takes courage to be a creative. It takes courage to be a writer when no one is telling you to do it, besides your own inner drive and your own inner passion. And I'm very lucky because I have a supportive network around me of people, friends and family members, who believe I can do it and believe in me. I'm very lucky. But even with that, it is really hard to convince yourself to keep going. And I realized this year it takes courage and grit and fortitude and a bit of not actually giving a fuck. Pardon the F-bomb. It takes a bit of not giving a fuck about the inner critic and the inner voice, as well as all the other voices that are telling you it's a bad idea, don't do it. I am now repeating to myself, when I feel afraid, when I feel wobbly about it, hold your nerve. Hold your nerve. I've written it on a piece of paper and stuck it on my board above where I write. When I walk down the street, go for a walk, and I feel the wobble, I feel the scare, I feel the pressure that it's not going to work, it's just not going to work. You've got to do something else. Hold your nerve. Hold your nerve. Hold your nerve.